My name is Michael, and I live in a quiet corner of Oregon, where pine trees line the roads and winters feel like something out of a postcard. For the past 7 years, I've been a single dad, not by choice, but by fate. My wife, Emily, passed away in a tragic car accident just days after giving birth to our daughter, Lily. From that moment, life forced me into a role I was never prepared for. Changing diapers at 3 a.m., learning how to braid pigtails through YouTube tutorials, figuring out what temperature a bottle should be. I did it all. And honestly, I wasn't perfect, far from it. But I loved that little girl with everything I had. Lily was my anchor when I thought I'd drift away. I believed Emily's death was the worst thing that could ever happen to me. But I was wrong. The worst hadn't come yet. It happened on a Tuesday. I remember it clearly because it snowed that morning, early for the season. Lily had complained of feeling tired the day before, but I thought it was just a mild cold. Then, around 2 a.m., I heard a crash from the hallway. I ran out and found her collapsed, her face pale, lips bluish. We rushed to the emergency room. The doctor said she needed an immediate blood transfusion due to acute anemia. I didn't hesitate. "Take mine," I said. They drew my blood, and I sat by Lily's bedside, whispering to her that everything would be okay, that Daddy was here, that I wouldn't let anything happen. Then the doctor returned. He didn't sit down. He stood, holding a clipboard, eyes scanning my face like he didn't want to say what he had to say. "Mr. Anderson," he began, "are you absolutely certain Lily is your biological daughter?" I blinked. What? Of course. What kind of question is that? He didn't smile, didn't flinch. He just continued. "There's something you need to see." He handed me a sheet, blood type mismatch, DNA markers, all confirming one terrifying thing. Lily and I shared no genetic connection. None. I remember everything slowing down. The world, the lights, the beeping of the monitors behind me. It all blurred. No relation? I repeated, barely hearing my own voice. "I'm sorry, sir," the doctor said. "You're not her biological father." And just like that, my world cracked open. The child I had raised, sung lullabies to, cradled through fevers, taken to preschool, wasn't my child. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. I sat beside Lily in that pale hospital room, holding her hand while she slept, my mind spinning, unraveling everything I thought I knew. The doctors said she'd recover, physically. But what about me? What was I supposed to do with this truth? I stared at her face. The little freckle near her ear I used to kiss goodnight. The small gap between her teeth when she smiled. The way she mumbled in her sleep, just like Emily used to. It didn't make sense. Every memory I had, her first steps, her first bike ride, her first nightmare, they were real, tangible, carved into me. I thought about the time she came home crying from kindergarten because another kid told her girls couldn't be astronauts. I remembered kneeling down, looking her in the eyes, and saying, "You can be anything you want, and I'll be right behind you. Always." What did DNA have to do with that? Still, I couldn't ignore it. The truth was sitting in my lap, screaming silently from a test result. Lily wasn't my daughter, at least not by blood. But by love? By sacrifice? By the thousands of moments we'd shared? I'd read once that being a father wasn't about biology. It was about presence. I wanted to believe that. But at 3 a.m., alone in a sterile hospital room, belief was a fragile thing. I began to think back to the night she was born. Emily had gone into labor 3 weeks early. The hospital was understaffed. I remember pacing outside the delivery room, biting my nails, praying. When the nurse finally brought Lily to me, I didn't think twice. She was swaddled in pink, eyes barely open, and I cried harder than I ever had in my life. I remember thinking, this is what love looks like. Was that all a lie? And then another thought crept in. If Lily wasn't mine, whose was she? And where was my daughter? The next morning, while Lily rested, I stood in front of the hospital's medical records office. I wasn't even sure what I was hoping to find. A clerical error? Some kind of medical anomaly? A way to undo the words "no genetic connection" still echoing in my head. "I need access to the birth records from 7 years ago," I told the woman at the desk. "My daughter was born here. Something's not right." She looked at me with the kind of tired suspicion reserved for people who've clearly been crying for hours. "Sir, there's a process." "I don't care about the process," I said. My voice cracked, and I hated myself for sounding so desperate. "Please, I just need answers." Hours later, After proving my identity and signing stacks of paperwork, they handed me a slim folder labeled with Emily's name. My hands shook as I opened it. Delivery time, 2:01 a.m. Infant moved to nursery, 2:04 a.m. Returned to mother, 2:16 a.m. But something felt wrong. I remembered that Emily wasn't conscious for quite a while after the birth. She had lost a lot of blood and was taken to post-op recovery. I knew because I waited nearly an hour to see her. So how could Lily have been returned to her after just 15 minutes? I asked to see the security footage from the nursery that night. The request took days to process, and I spent that time between hospital visits and pacing my living room, replaying every moment of Lily's birth in my mind. Finally, someone from hospital security called. We found the archived footage. You'll want to see this. It was grainy, time-stamped, flickering slightly. I watched Emily being wheeled into the delivery room. An hour later, a nurse exited with a baby in a bassinet and entered the nursery. A few minutes passed. Then something strange. Emily appeared in frame again, walking. Alone. No staff beside her. No wheelchair. She looked pale, dazed, still in a hospital gown. She entered the nursery, and when she came out, she was carrying a different infant. I knew it wasn't the same baby. I knew it like I knew my own heartbeat. There was no confrontation, no alarms. Just a quiet substitution in the still hours before dawn. I dropped the tablet, playing the footage. My chest burned. Why? Why would she do this? Why didn't I see it? What happened in that room that made the woman I loved switch babies? For days, I wandered through my own house like a ghost. Every room whispered memories of Emily, of us, of Lily. I kept trying to convince myself there had to be an explanation. Something logical, something forgivable. But the deeper I looked, the more the truth began to surface, and it was nothing I could have prepared for. I found her old journals in the attic, tucked inside a shoebox labeled Spring Cleaning 2016. It was a collection of spiral notebooks, filled with Emily's handwriting. I hadn't seen them since we'd moved in. At first, it was ordinary stuff, grocery lists, notes about work, scribbles of baby names we'd considered before Lily was born. Then, tucked between 2 pages, I found it. A single sentence underlined in red ink. If he ever finds out, he'll leave me. But I can't bring myself to tell him. I'm already too far in. I felt a knot tighten in my chest. I flipped through more pages. Another entry, written 2 weeks before Lily was born. I didn't plan for it to happen. He was just someone I talked to when Michael was working late. But then it happened. Once. And then again. And now, I'm pregnant. And I don't know whose baby it is. The words blurred as I read them over and over. Emily had been unfaithful. She hadn't been sure who the father was. And rather than face the collapse of our perfect little family, she made a choice. She switched the babies. There was more. In another entry, dated the night before she died. Sometimes I think about confessing. But Lily, she's mine now. I love her. And Michael does too. Maybe it's enough. Maybe it's better he never knows. My hands trembled. Emily had taken the truth with her to the grave. And yet, I couldn't hate her. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But I thought about how scared she must have been. About how alone she probably felt. And how, in her own way, she thought she was protecting us. I remembered the last thing she said to me, the morning before the accident. Promise me you'll always protect Lily. She knew. She knew the secret might come out one day. But she also knew I'd love Lily no matter what. That promise, it was more than just a dying mother's wish. It was her final plea. I couldn't rest until I found her, my biological daughter. The hospital wouldn't release information easily. Patient privacy laws were a brick wall, but I had one thing on my side. The error. The switch. The tragedy. Once I explained the situation, along with legal counsel and a compassionate pediatric nurse willing to advocate, they opened an investigation. We matched DNA records from births during the same time window as Lily's. There were only 2 other girls born in that nursery between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m. that night. One was ruled out immediately. The other, her name was Sarah. Sarah McConnell. 7 years old. Brown hair. Hazel eyes. She lived with a couple named Laura and Ben McConnell, just 8 kilometers from my house. They were school teachers, had adopted Sarah after complications during birth supposedly left her mother unable to care for her. Except now we knew, Sarah wasn't adopted. She was mine. The revelation hit me harder than I expected. I stared at her photo for hours. Printed from the school's yearbook. Smiling, 2 front teeth missing. arms slung around two classmates. She looked like me. My eyes. My smile. I wanted to meet her instantly. But how? How do you knock on a stranger's door and say, "Hi, your daughter is actually mine"? I hired a counselor first, someone experienced in family reunifications. She told me to go slow, respect their space, prepare for resistance. She was right. When I reached out to the McConnells through a formal letter, I didn't accuse. I didn't demand. I explained the situation with humility and offered medical proof, timelines, even the archived security footage. I said I didn't want to take Sarah away. I just wanted to know her, to see her. They didn't reply for 2 weeks. Then one Sunday morning, I got a phone call. Unknown number. "Mr. Anderson? This is Laura McConnell. We got your letter. We've seen the evidence. And I think we need to talk." My throat closed. I couldn't even speak. Just nodded into the phone, though she couldn't see me. We agreed to meet at a neutral location, a family therapist's office. When I first saw Sarah in person, she was holding a stuffed panda and looking cautiously around the room. Laura whispered something in her ear, and she walked up to me. "Hi," she said. "Are you the guy who sent us a letter?" I nodded. "Yeah, I guess I am." She tilted her head. "You kind of look like me." And in that moment, everything in me softened. I didn't cry. Not yet. But inside, my soul cracked open. This was my daughter. After the meeting, I sat in my car in silence for a long time. I watched the McConnells walk away, Sarah skipping beside them, her panda bouncing under her arm. She turned around once and waved. That wave nearly undid me. What was I supposed to do now? I had Lily, my daughter, in every memory, every instinct, every beat of my heart. But I also had Sarah, my biological child, a stranger I instantly loved without question. Could I be a father to both? Would the world allow that? Would they? I spent the following weeks torn in half. I woke up each day helping Lily get ready for school, tying her shoelaces, packing her lunch, trying to pretend everything was the same. But at night, I'd sit by my window, looking out at the stars, wondering what Sarah was doing. The McConnells were cautious but kind. They allowed another meeting, then a third. Eventually, Sarah and I went to the zoo together, just us. She held my hand the entire time. She asked questions. Lots of them. "Why didn't you come find me sooner? Did you know my favorite food is macaroni with ketchup? Do I have your nose?" I answered as best I could. With truth. With humor. With tears. Lily didn't know yet. I hadn't told her. Not because I wanted to hide it, but because I didn't know how. I feared she would feel replaced or less loved. And that thought alone was unbearable. Eventually, I sat her down. We were in the living room. I turned off the TV. She looked up, sensing something serious. "Sweetheart," I began. "There's something important I need to tell you. Something about when you were born." She listened, quietly. I told her the truth in the gentlest way I could. That she had come into my life through a twist of fate. That I had raised her with all the love I had. That nothing about her changed in my eyes. She didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She just said, "But I'm still your daughter, right?" I pulled her into my arms. "You are my daughter. Always." And then she whispered, "Then nothing else matters." In that moment, the weight I had been carrying shattered, and in its place was something else entirely. Wholeness. It wouldn't be easy. I would have to fight for a place in Sarah's life, while nurturing the bond one had with Lily. I would have to balance truth and love, biology and history. But I would do it, because they were both my daughters. Not by the same means, but by the same heart.